In order, we don't have a quorum, but we're going to try to move forward here as part of the reaffirmation of this committee. So if you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have an agenda. FOIA notice has been posted. Approval of the minutes. Anybody can remember from back March of 25th of 2022? Anybody have any objections or amendments? Without objection, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Anybody wish to add to the agenda other than the two items that we have here? Okay, any citizen comments? Maybe we just go around and introduce, just kind of a reintroduction. Some of us are new at the table and we've got a couple of guests here. So I'll start with me, Ed Pappas, Beaufort County Planning Commission, acting chairman.
Joe DeVito, Town of Port Royal Mayor.
I'm Stephen Murray, City of Beaufort Mayor.
Mike McPhee, Beaufort City Council.
Sue Cosner, Chair of the MPC and a resident of Beaufort.
Scott Marshall, Beaufort City Manager.
I'm Alice Howard, District 4, Beaufort County, and I did get a text from Gerald. He won't be able to join us.
Okay, thank you. Let's just go around the room and just folks in that row.
Robert Merchant, Director of Planning and Zoning, Beaufort County.
Kristen Forbes, Long Range Planner, Beaufort County. Brooke Plank-Bucola, Town of Port Royal, Director of Administrative Services.
Noah Krebs, Port Royal Planning.
Jared Fraless, Beaufort County Assistant Administrator.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We've got two discussion items, and I think they kind of stem from some of the perhaps unofficial or interim discussions that we've had as to the purpose and intent and direction of this particular committee, which has not been in a quorum for now over a year. Two items to identify projects that would benefit from a multi-jurisdictional cooperation and the discussion of meeting schedule. I think very prominent in discussions based on an unofficial survey that I did in our discussions in December. Some of the things we talked about were really the frequency of the meeting, the duration of the meeting, the extensive agenda of the meeting, even to the point of representation on the meeting, and a further consideration of the regional meeting south of the Broad River. I don't have a specific place to begin. If you have some thoughts, either of you, I know you were becoming aligned a little bit with Southern Loco.
Well, and so positive news as of, it was January meeting, by unanimous vote of the Southern Low Country Regional Board. They included the town of Port Royal and the city of Beaufort. I do want to thank Councilwoman Alice Howard for her support as she serves as one of the county's appointees to that board.
Okay.
So we are all under one tent now, which I think is important because it's one of the only mechanisms we have that also includes Jasper County and all the south of the Broad municipalities.
Did you want to share any thoughts about this meeting? And I know you were very prominent, you and Joe and Alice, in the discussions that we had earlier and in continuing discussions. Would you want to offer any thoughts as we begin this reorganization?
Well, I think we have a great opportunity to keep going, but be short. An hour meeting. I like the way Slow Loco has 1 hour and they do one subject. I think there's subjects north of the Broad that Soloco will not have an interest in, that we do as a group, and that we just need to attack those as we go along. My fellow county council members, we have one new person, and I don't think he knew that this was happening today necessarily. Well, he might have gotten notice, I'm sure, but the importance of it, and I will certainly, once we set what our subject matters are, I'm sure he'll be participating, David Bartholomew, and then our other fellow members too. Mr. Dawson had something, he could not be here today, so I think we just identify what we want to do and go forward. I don't know. I see pros and cons of meeting once a month. I don't have an opinion. Sometimes if you only meet every other month, you lose momentum. I've seen it happen with some of our own boards and commissions when they only meet every other month. But then if you don't have anything to do, there's no use in meeting.
Yeah.
I don't like to meet for the sake of meeting either. That's my thoughts.
All right. You, Joe?
Go first.
Well, I think when you go back to the intent and why this committee was stood up, it's the Northern Regional Plan Implementation Committee, and I was probably still in high school at the time.
Wow, you making me feel old.
I was here.
Yeah.
I wasn't in high school.
It's always aimed at me, don't feel bad.
At least college.
So I wasn't a part of the creation of the plan, but I think over the conversations we've had about, do we keep the thing going? Also think about the development pressures that we're facing right now. I lay awake at night sort of thinking about land use and development and how we all work together and balance what's coming at us. And so, I went back and read the plan, which is I think it's a really well done document. And so kudos to those that were around the table when it was created. I do think we've maybe strayed a bit from some of the things we agreed to in the plan. And that's no slight on anybody. I think it just happens. I think it's 2008, right? So the plan does say that about every 5 years we would come back and update, even though it is a 20-year plan. So at a minimum, I think this group, we probably ought to have some kind of like refresh is the wrong word, but at least like all of us read the plan. Let's talk about the recommendations. Let's talk about the land use strategies.
Just an update.
What's the work that's left to be done, right? We've accomplished a lot of the things that are in the plan, but there are still a few items that I think are outstanding. In our case, the environmental standards, dock links, critical setback lines. We had made a commitment in here that they would be better aligned with the other partners. Recent annexation sort of highlighted to me that we haven't done that, and so I think as a part of our code and regulatory review process, we're gonna make good on our commitment back in 2008. So I would, I guess at a minimum, I'd say let's go back and just have a meeting where we, by the next meeting we agree to read the plan and then come in and have some kind of informed conversation about, what do we agree with, what do we not agree with, do we want to make some modifications, what's the work that's left outstanding. And I don't need another meeting to go to. I could I could go either way. We could do monthly as long as we're going to keep it to an hour,
Right.
and be really sort of hold fast to that hour line. It's not a marathon, because I think that's what's turned a lot of people off from the 2.5 hour marathons we used to have. I could also do every other month, but I also agree with Alice that sometimes you lose some momentum if we do decide that this is going to be a place where we actually try to move some things forward. And I have a couple of specific items that I think we could work on besides just the plan review, but I'll hold that for the next part of the conversation.
No, I agree. I mean, updating the plan, we did put that 5-year limit in there, remember that, but we've never actually done it. For a while, we were steady moving on things and we just kept items going. And then it kind of fell by the wayside, as we all know. We just lost the momentum of the group completely. I like the 1 hour monthly meetings. I think that will help us keep it going, especially if we're going to do single topic meetings and really work through them. I think it's going to spread things out too far if we start going to every other month in that aspect. So let's try to keep it to 1 hour meetings, and I think monthly makes sense to me. The plan is a good plan. Do we go back as much as we gotta go back, we gotta review the plan, but do we still call this an implementation committee, or do we just change, we dropped the I, you know what I mean? We dropped the implementation portion, it's something we should keep looking at, and something we should keep reviewing.
Doesn't sound as good.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult
Difficult to say
pronounce.
it?
We can come up with like a catchy acronym like So Loco.
Yeah, we can define it.
No Loco.
No loco. I think we're all loco, so never mind that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Had a lot of coffee this morning.
Yeah.
comes you had this morning.
I was up at 5, so.
So, yeah, I just think, because I want it, for me, I think we have to have the ability to introduce new items that aren't in the plan.
Yeah.
And that's the reason that I'm kind of even saying that. I mean, we did some of that, we did some good things because something would come forward and we would jump on them and work on them over the years. And I'd like to have that ability to say, well, it's not in the plan, you can't work on it. I don't want to get into that kind of realm of discussion.
Okay. Regarding the administration or the frequency of meetings, is this day on a Friday at 9:30 agreeable? Does there anybody have a better thought?
I mean,
Let's see, so Loco meets Tuesday.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking, if we had something we wanted to share, as long as we meet before then, which we're kind of in that path, that might work out well.
Friday works good for me.
Yeah, Friday's just as good as.
Okay. So what I'm hearing kind of uniformly, and we can put this down as a draft for a vote officially when we have a quorum.
Could I suggest like 9 o'clock instead of 9:30? Would that matter?
Oh, that'd be great.
9:30 is a little
Yeah,
weird
that's
time.
fine
It
with
sort
me.
of kills your morning.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
how's the rest of staff.
So what I'm hearing, is
Yeah,
that
9:30 pushes, you're left with a fragment of time before
Exactly.
lunch. and-
So we're like
So
Fragment of
9
time
is
to get
okay with
lots
me.
of things done before lunch.
Yeah.
9 o'clock?
Yes. I was ready to leave the office at 8:45 anyway.
Okay,
I
9
got
I
o'clock.
myself, it was 9:30, not
so
9, so.
the draft for a vote next time will be a third Friday, 9 o'clock, once a month, 1 hour. Do we want to say anything about representation on the committee?
That's in the,
Equal representation issue, or is there any,
we have to change.
are you happy with who we have now, or do you want to add anybody?
I'm trying to remember if it was ordinance
Was
specific.
it an ordinance, county ordinance?
We did some research on this, and way back in 2006, we put together the steering committee for the plan itself. And then all the plan does, it says the steering committee, or I think when the plan was adopted, the resolution said the steering committee now becomes the implementation committee. And I could not find anything that said the steering committee shall be made up of these members. I think we kind of stuck with
Yeah.
what representation we had.
I agree with that. The only thing that wasn't in that was Yemisi. And
Yeah.
as a member, so we want to add Yemisi as an official member and recognize that.
Some
Where'd you know
reason-
they were?
Not in the original plan. They're not
Since
stated.
they attended for,
Yeah, they did not participate in the steering committee. And then
Got
when
it.
we made it a plan, we invited them, we actually had a couple of meetings in there. Trying to remember, we went up there and had at least 2 meetings. But through mayor changes and different things, they dropped out, but I'd love to get them back in
and the
here.
school board was always part of it.
School board has always been a part, mediocre attendance, but always been a part.
Elcog,
When Bill Evans was here, he came.
They, presentations of land use,
Yeah.
but not as a member.
They were definitely staff support, always at every meeting, helping, and they were staff support.
When Bill Evans
Did
was chairman, he came.
One of the,
Yeah, that's right.
they had representation on the steering committee, I think.
yeah, originally it was Bill McBride, and he was a councilman and a member of the board for Elcog.
And
So-
then Brian Dwelling represented Westcott.
Okay, real quickly, before we move on,
We can
if
ask
everybody around the table approves, Jerry Ashmore sent a proxy for Brooke to attend in his place for
As
today's
designee.
meeting as a designee, which gives us a quorum and we can actually vote on some of the stuff today.
Move.
Is there,
moved acceptance.
You see it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I much prefer Brooke over Jerry anyway. That was recorded, by the way.
I know, I said it loud, so you hear.
I will screenshot this and email it to you so that you can have it for the
Much more
record.
attractive, much more attractive.
Okay, Brooke, welcome to the table, this way we can.
No, we're in a quorum.
We're in a quorum.
First time in a year.
So sorry it took me a little bit to get that, but I was kind of quietly working it in the corner here.
So officially move
Thank you.
acceptance of
Thank
our
you, Brooke.
minutes.
Excuse me?
Let's go
Officially
back to
move
the
acceptance
minutes.
of our minutes.
Yes.
Accept the minutes.
Got a motion and a second.
Congratulations, Brooke.
I heard a motion and a second.
Motion and a second to accept the minutes.
Discussion? All those approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Objections? Okay. And we also had set down a draft for a vote we can take now regarding 1 hour, third Friday, 9 o'clock.
Do you need a motion?
I would like to have a motion
I'll
that we
make a motion that we begin meetings at 9 o'clock, third Friday for no longer than 1 hour.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. One last administrative item. I fell into the position of acting chairman when Mike resigned. So we need to either make that permanent or move on to someone else, which is okay.
Enthusiasm in that, okay, wasn't there?
I just don't want to be an opposing force here, you know what I mean?
Let's make a motion for Ed Pappis to continue serving as chairman.
I would second that.
Discussion? Favor?
You were hoping.
Objection? We need now a vice chair. It's a vacant position. The nominal,
Let me ask you a question. I'm going back to history here. It was
Yep.
chair, vice chair was
planning commission, Beaufort,
planning
County.
commission, metropolitan planning commission.
Metropolitan.
Switched every other year, chair, vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Sue.
Okay, so I'd like to,
Chair.
I think that,
As
that,
vice chair?
right, the idea was that it stayed in that realm. I'm just bringing that back. We can change it
we have
later.
a second.
Sorry, Sue.
We've
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What an agreeable group this is. I hope we can move fast in the subject agendas. Okay, the discussion about moving forward in the affirmation or reaffirmation of the charter, I think is right on. I hope you've all seen or will see soon the resolution to R 2009-11, which was a resolution adopting this particular charter. It's a very interesting reading, and particularly the some 12 or 13 pages on intergovernmental agreement, which is what we should be pouring through, as you suggested, and moving forward in discussion of that. Do we want to set some agenda topics regarding that for our next meeting?
And Ed, could I get a copy of that? I don't.
Sure.
I don't have a copy. I don't know who to request that from, but.
Well, I've got the copy right here, if we can just get copies made. Does anybody else need copies?
I've not seen it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'd like to get one.
You sent it out about a year ago.
Actually,
Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead and make it for the group.
I might suggest for the next meeting, I'm gonna look at Rob Merchant and say this statement. Because I was looking at the acknowledgements, and so there's, you know, man, what a who's who of folks, but in terms of planning and support staff, you were on here a couple of times, photography and, but and I'm not saying necessarily just you, but can we get a presentation maybe about the plan that would open some conversation about how we got to where we are, and then kind of things left undone?
That's a great idea. Yeah, just kind of a
Absolutely.
Reader's Digest version of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that as well, as somebody who wasn't involved.
Right.
So,
A history lesson.
Has everybody seen the charter? Because that's a pretty good outline of
I was in high
the
school.
plan. Then there's a 90-page document that goes through it
Yeah.
pretty
Correct.
extensively.
Correct.
And that's, you can get that off the website, Beaufort County website.
And I know like Libby was over in the city at the time, Jim Kodak.
Libby.
Alice, you were on the TAC,
Yep.
Go myself.
yeah, Wendy Zara, Portable Housing.
Yeah.
Group.
That'd be good, like a little history lesson.
So let me ask for the next meeting if the committee members and support staff would take a look at the document. That is the Beaufort County Northern Regional Plan. And since it's going to be a topic of discussion, that would be very, very helpful.
have another question, and maybe Rob knows. Why are there 4 county reps, although one of them may be supposed to be the LoCog rep? And then
Yes.
the other, why is that? That doesn't seem fair to the
I think we're going back
municipalities.
to the politics of 2006, but I
Okay.
think, yeah, one of them was the official representative for LCOG.
So, do I remember, the conversation was, there was 4 reps from the 2 municipalities, so the county had to match the same.
Oh,
Because we
okay.
were 2 from each one of the municipalities, so the county
Oh.
had to match that, so.
But that's not,
I'm not saying, I'm just remembering history
Yeah.
conversations.
that was back in the
This was, I
annexation
mean,
war
Right,
days,
this is a
so-
long time ago,
The
but.
Jets and the Shark days.
Yeah.
starting out, I mean, just getting everyone in the same room was a miracle. So I mean, it was kind of a, we started off with maybe a rocky relationship.
So, is there anybody from the municipalities that also is a LoCog rep on here?
There may have been originally.
But not now, none of.
I mean, Neil is LoCog.
Okay,
Phil was LoCog.
in the city, in the
Mary
town,
Beth for us.
Mary Beth.
Mary Beth.
okay,
So-
that's right, Mary Beth, okay, alright. Well, this may not be the right time to do it, but I think the county, and I should reduce how many people are on it to be, more even.
So what would you reduce that to, 2 people, 2 representatives?
Too, but one of us may be a LoCog, I don't see why we couldn't double hat it,
Okay.
LoCog and representation.
Can I,
I'm one of the LoCog reps.
can I offer a counterpoint?
Uh-huh,
So this body isn't regulatory, and nothing
No.
that we vote on really has any weight. I mean, that's the wrong word, not weight. It doesn't have any like binding, it's not binding to our organizations, right? So what happened when we decide something here, then we then have to take it back to our respective organizations and try to convince our respective councils and staffs to commit resources to whatever the mutual priority is. Is that right? So to that point, city council, we have city and town, we have 5-member councils. And so having 2 members each, right? We only need 1 more vote to get something done out of here.
I mean, we don't,
County
it was
council.
not to establish quorums.
well, I see what you're saying, but I'm just trying to think about increasing attendance from a county.
Right. I guess my point is, if you're 11-member council, it takes you a lot more than us to get something through
Right,
priorities. And so having more county folks at the table so that they understand the genesis of some of the ideas that will come out of here
It's probably a
when
smart
we
move.
commit resources, I don't think will be
Yeah.
a bad thing.
okay,
Even if it means that on some of the things you'll have a heavier weight of county council members versus municipal members across the table. But I think that for me, from a municipal perspective, I'm okay with that if it means we have more influencers from the county understanding whatever the priorities are before we go to our respective organizations and
yeah,
ask for those
we're
commitment
still only
resources.
4 votes out of 11.
Yeah, and I mean, from an action standpoint, the majority of the stuff that we take, anything is from the land use, joint
Yes.
land use or any of the consultant work that comes before us before it goes on to other jurisdictions. So it's nothing really weighted.
Okay,
I would be hesitant to make that decision now. I would
Oh, I
rather
wouldn't wanna
you
make
go,
it.
no, I'd
I
rather you
would-
go back to the county
I wanna
members.
talk to all
see if
4
you
of
can
them and see- I
Get
mean,
them
3
as
of
excited about getting this thing up and running again.
Right.
It'd be great to have the full representatives in this room with us to talk about that stuff.
I hope someone, from the school district will attend, but we'll work on that.
I'm happy to call
Yeah,
friends at the school
might
district
be a bit.
and ask
I am as well.
if they may
but
consider making a
take
new
a shot
appointment.
at it.
Yeah.
So they have 1 or 2 seats.
Just one normally. Earl Campbell was the one that
Yeah.
would
Okay.
represent.
Okay.
He used to.
So we'll leave that as an action item for you, Alice, for the,
I'll talk to the other council members, yeah.
talk to the school
We'll
Just
talk
district.
to school.
encourage attendance, yeah, sure.
Okay,
10 o'clock.
I think we're about there. Although we didn't start at 9.
Yeah, so we did start at 9.
Oh, okay, well, we got
So
10 more
you know-
minutes.
We don't have to
Drink some
prolong,
more coffee.
Just enough time for this.
No,
Finish your coffee.
we don't have to prolong it, but if there's a particular, I think I would ask each of the committee members to take a look at, are there specific issues within that charter that you think dominate or should dominate our discussion near term? whether it's annexation, whether it's growth boundaries, et cetera.
And when you use the word charter, are you talking about the intergovernmental agreements?
The intergovernmental agreement, yes, that establish it, and then there's the 90-page document behind it, which is online.
Yeah, I've got it.
I would like to share, just throw something out there that I've heard a lot about from my constituents, like with their, in my district. They're really working.
Thank you, Jerry.
They're, since Jared's here, the big plan for transportation, Paris Island Gateway, '78, Salem Road, you know, they're all buzz about that. Not so much Rebar Road, but, I don't know. Anyway, so just like to share that. And I don't even, you know, I have to go back and look at our charter and our plan and you can see if that's something we can at least have discussions about. I know there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with staff and the three entities, but there's a lot of people worried. Is anybody thinking about all the traffic?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, they are. His name's Jared. Like, that's all he thinks about. And
We're very concerned about it.
Very high up on his list of things.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have additional items that we might want to
Maybe.
review going forward. Soloco, they develop a list of items, but they narrow it down to the next subject for the next meeting, 1 or 2 items, to keep it moving, to, you know, stay within the time limits. But it's always good to have in your hip pocket what you think should be coming your term down the road. So I would, you know, I'd ask that maybe what you do as well is if you think there are other, say, a half dozen or so subjects you think need to be on that agenda somewhere, at least come with that list.
And we've highlighted them and you've got them well highlighted in the minutes again.
If they are the same, yes.
That's a hot subject, you know,
Yeah, if they're the same, then we'll just go forward with that list.
infrastructure.
Well, the good news is we, you know, our respective jurisdictions have done a fair amount of transportation planning. And then with the capital committee that we put together beginning of last year with our appointees, I thought, led by Jared back there, I thought did a really great job
Did
of
an outstanding
capturing the sort of the
Outstanding.
larger countywide, long range, right, 30, 40-year transportation issues. The problem is we just don't
How
have
do
a
we get
meaningful
there?
funding source to start executing some of those plans. I'm told Rebo Road is starting to really come together, and short order we'll have some plan after we get some citizen feedback and polish all that up. But it's really gonna come down to, money. And I think that's how we work with the county to get something on a ballot in,
Yeah.
I guess, in '24. Obviously, I think a number of us were disappointed that we didn't put something on the ballot in '22, but it's water under the bridge. But I don't think anything's off the table, Alice. I think absolutely transportation
Yeah,
is
it's
something.
just
we could-
something before we adjourn.
Can I ask a background question? Did I read somewhere that there is consideration of an MPO being established for the county?
Yes, so there's already an MPO that makes up
Yes.
Hardyville, Bluffton.
Regional
Dennis.
planning
Yeah,
group,
it
it's not
does.
an MPO officially.
Well, no, it's an MPO.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But currently, Federal Highway just made us all aware, the northern Beaufort County unincorporated city of Beaufort and town of Port Royal, that we just reached the threshold to establish a new MPO. And basically, we need to get back to them whether, yes, we want to do that, or no, we want to remain in the existing MPO. And so I'm working with Reese and Van to get some thoughts on paper to share with councils, all the councils, to make a decision on that.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that might be a good topic for this group too.
I think it feeds right into what you're talking about, Alice.
Well, the short subject is basically we reached that threshold. If we wanted to create a new MPO, we've got to get a new staff, a new long-range plan, a new tip, a whole laundry list of items. That is totally possible. But then we've got 2 competing MPOs, which maybe there's some additional funding from DOT on that, but then, in my opinion, the idea of an MPO is to be the regional planner, and now we're not planning together because we've got multiple MPOs.
That was my concern when
You were at the last meeting when we talked about this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And the other concern
Well,
for,
it's coming up next last meeting as well.
too, about this, for the same thing, because we decided.
Well, I think it's a
to defer
vote
until we
next
have-
time. Last time it was just.
if we were to establish a new study area, also, we would have no idea what the funding would be until we tell them, yes, we want to do it.
Exactly.
Because they can't distribute that bucket until they know all of the MPOs that will exist within the state. So DOT is waiting for us.
Yeah.
So they can tell the highway administration, here's how many MPOs we're gonna have, and here's what the numbers are, so.
But our earlier conversation indicated that it was just gonna be a fracture of the existing MPOs financing, but not,
Yeah, there's
not
a
100%.
$5 million floor, and so I don't know what they can't tell us what the increase would be for LATS until they know if LATS is going to be the only one within the region, or if we're gonna create a new one.
But there will be an increase to LATS.
It will be an increase.
Right. It's either
The focus will be on,
separate the money.
focus will be on urbanized areas instead of those
July.
areas within that are
By
more
July.
under the
So we have to provide back by October 1st to DOT.
They prefer to know by June, is what they said, so that by October they can actually tell us what the funding will be.
So far, the short summary is just us talking with staffs with one another is to remain in the existing MPO for the regional planning. Let's see if we can barter with DOT to raise our contribution instead of 5 million, maybe 8 million, which would be a middle between $2 to $5 million MPOs.
Gotcha.
That's sort of where our heads are at the staff level, and that'll come through it'll come through this committee, probably makes sense, as well as councils.
So a future discussion item will be additional MPO. Any other thoughts on topics for discussion that you'd like to throw out at this point? Anything from Soloco that we want to be aboard on, or do we need to give input to?
They meet Tuesday. They're gonna get an update on affordable housing.
I think it's always purposeful to stay in line or in concert with communication with what they're doing. I think we've got 3 or 4 representatives here that'll let you go to all the meetings, and now you're on the board.
I would say public safety north of the Broad,
I'm sorry?
public safety delivery north of the Broad, something. I think this group needs to
Well, we got
chat about.
right, we got the fire in there.
Fire EMS, yeah.
Fire, we got fire in there, and just we could clump EMS and fire together into that conversation. And I think that subject has come up to this group maybe since the 3rd meeting, at least once a year. Never been taken on. It's always brought up as something we need to talk about, but never honestly said, let's dive into it seriously.
Is the county doing an ICMA report update
Or
Oh.
for fire
I don't think
EMS?
No, I don't think so.
I think Bill before he retired had some conversations with Eric about it, but I don't think there was ever anything
Never any
really
discussion
finally
moving
decided when
forward.
the transition happened. But without going too far in the weeds, it might be a good next step.
All right.
Can I throw a bomb out?
Sure.
Is there any thought to reviewing the boundaries and in our process, deciding whether or not they're still valid?
The growth boundaries?
Yeah, the growth boundaries. It seems to me a lot of what is happening is on St. Helena. And I know this is a touchy subject, but it seems to me like this is when you look at it, it's a very small area, I think.
You mean
Just-
expanding
just
growth
above.
boundaries?
Well, I'm just wondering, I'm just wondering if there's a discussion for us to have to make sure that we're still looking at the right expanse.
Yes, we had started that dialogue
Had you? Okay.
back about a reviewing of the charter and the regional growth boundaries, and there
Mhm.
was a question about 3 areas that were in an annexation mode.
Right.
Typically, it's about contracting the growth boundaries, not about expanding them.
Could be, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
As development occurs, there is some argument for,
sprawl.
Yeah.
I could make an argument against sprawl.
I think the municipalities would.
We should have coffee.
yeah. Yeah, I want to make sure.
right, it was a bomb.
Yeah, it's a bomb. I know, but
Well, unfortunately, I mean,
I don't know how old.
unfortunately, it's gonna occur, the development's gonna occur even outside of the growth boundaries because some of the legacy PUDs and zoning
Yeah.
that we have
In Yemassee.
in the unincorporated county,
Just
and
saying,
Yemassee moving south.
Yemassee does what they want.
Um,
That review would occur as part of the overall
Yeah. You know, we look at the plan and refresh it, right?
Absolutely, yeah, it's a major ingredient of it.
Yeah.
When you start up a lot of
And that's
history going through those growth
appropriate, I
boundaries.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those meetings were
Sure good.
interesting.
But I wanna say it out loud, the city,
I was around the top.
under our leadership, will never, ever, ever, ever cross the Chowan Creek and go on to St. Helena, right? We will never go across that creek.
Wow.
Just want that to be said, as long as I'm around.
Okay, right, that's the
Yeah.
clarifying statement.
Yeah.
I think me too.
It's just not a bomb, it's just something like Scott
No,
said,
it's-
we've gotta,
Yeah,
we've
something
got
like
to,
that.
it's
Yeah,
gotta
it's
be
part
part
of
of
the
the
plan.
review.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Reasonable
yeah,
expectation.
there's a lot of emotions, that's for
I
sure.
mean, if nothing else, just to say that those boundaries still make sense, even if you don't adjust them,
Even
to
if
say that they were
Exactly.
discussed again and they still make sense.
Yeah.
You know, one part of it, as much as it's the annexation into the county, remember those boundaries were also Port Royal and the city of Beaufort respecting each other's boundaries and where we would grow to, not jumping into each other's territory, not only just expanding into the county in that way. So that was kind of that conversation, and there was deep and long meetings on those.
Can I,
Bloodletting.
Can I offer a bomb?
Back in the day when there wasn't GIS and there were literally maps thrown all over tables and
a
drawing
bomb
lines
that
on
plays off Sue's comment that I think would be fitting for this group to discuss is with the Woods Memorial Bridge being classified as a historical structure, it's going to be more challenging for DOT to keep that a fully functioning bridge. At some time, it's already load restricted right now, so you can't drive 18-wheeler across of it. As that bridge basically living its life or living its past its extended life, it's going to be more challenging to maintain. And
Engineering and money, man, engineering and money.
well, DOT is not going to say this out loud, but I feel like at some point it may be to the point where to keep it functional and open for water traffic, that it may be reduced from not even vehicle traffic. So the thought of a third bridge, which has been talked about and discussed, actually has a different light, and I feel like it should at least garner some attention, whether we want to do it or not, but at least evaluate, because if that bridge is shut down, then we're back to the one bridge. So it's not the addition of a third bridge, it's a replacement of a second bridge discussion.
Wouldn't that be part of an overall discussion with regard to the Ladies Island Village Center and the traffic flow?
Well, potentially, yes. And it actually could enhance that.
Right.
Because if now the Woods Memorial Bridge is not, just think of that hypothetical, if it's not open to vehicular traffic, well, there's no flow going on that village center. So the idea of making a village center is actually a little bit more easier because you don't have the same amount of flow. Good, bad, indifferent is just something that's out there that it's been studied in the past, but is there a worthwhile to study it again?
I think it's always up for conversation. I think the concern with what we identified in Ladies on Plan was that depending on where you put the bridge, it actually induces development and actually compounds our problems. And, you know, for better or worse, people want to go across the McCure Bridge or the Woods Bridge and through the two municipal jurisdictions. And so short of some other way to not create congestion within the municipalities, but get folks on and off the sea islands. I mean, I've spent a fair amount of time looking at a map of where could you site a bridge. So, I mean, from the city standpoint, we'd love to look. So if you've got some ideas on geography of,
Well, so there's work done before. So I looked at it a little bit, and it started back in either '99 or 2003. And I think there's 4 reports: feasibility report, actual NEPA document of a third bridge. And so there was money spent in 2006 sales tax, $1 million to get to that level of design.
that was the northern bypass, right?
Correct. And it basically got to a point and then just sat. So if
Well, it's
we're
sad because residents came out screaming.
no, I understand the situation, but I guess I'm bringing it up because if so, that's something that this committee could petition to LATS or petition as a sales tax project, just like it was in 2006. So
Certainly.
Hilton Head is they're opining for a second bridge study as well. So just bringing it up as a
To that point,
consideration.
and I think this dovetails in with Sue's or Alice's like transportation.
It ties into
Have we ever
growth
done an
and
analysis, we
transportation.
looked at like, I mean, I know Ladies Island was an additional 8,000 plus units. Have we ever looked at it full build out? And then at full build out, what transportation impacts look look like? I mean, I know that's a bit of a crystal ball
We've talked about that.
question, but could we bring somebody in that could do that level of analysis to say,
Well,
It was done back when we originally did this, but
It
so
might-
much has changed.
it might be a good idea because now we have resources to maybe prevent that full buildup with the green space dollars. So that's
think it would just
gonna
use
be a
the
good
exist-
question.
right, so if it's $600 million to build a bridge or $600 million to go buy down development densities, right, is that a question we ask ourselves? Is it,
What are other, or another alternative, yeah.
Right.
We didn't have that resource before, so.
I mean, because I see us putting up a bunch of multifamily, or folks putting up a bunch of multifamily, and, you know, I see some of these two-lane roads where multifamily is being built, and I'm nervous about the TIAs really taking into account. That's something that's gonna come up in our code review over the next few months.
I was just looking at the original plan, and the original plan, which was published in 2006, is that what it was? So the original plan said northern Beaufort County is forecasted to grow by approximately 53% over the next 20 years, from approximately 80,500 to almost 123,500. It'd be interesting to see how close we are to them.
Not close.
Right.
Okay,
So the,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
is there any other dialogue?
You've got
I
the Woods Bridge shut down and 2 vehicular traffic, and you right now have 31,000 trips going across the McTier at peak hours. That's, I don't know what the number is at the Woods.
It's 16 or
16, I was gonna say 18, so just think about adding another close to 50,000 trips
on
at
McTier.
McTier.
And quick math,
Yeah, so
20,000
that's-
vehicles a day services 2 lanes. So 4 lane is 40,000 and 3 lane is 60,000, or 6 lane is 60,000. That's just general numbers that,
Yeah, and we're looking at a widening project in the middle of a municipality.
McTier, yeah.
Which is not a good thing either, so no easy answer.
I support that, let's do that.
So this was a further agenda.
God, you wanted to see the rest of the air flow?
Is there any other dialogue? Anybody have any other comments you'd like to make? If not, would you like to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to adjourn and remind everybody, April 21st, Whitehall dedication.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So I just need a second.
All right, second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for being.